that's one. And then it stopped because I have told this one before, but it's kind of, but I'll tell it again if too many of you haven't seen it on YouTube or at a previous convention. The one time that I tried cosplaying a character that I played, now should I go on with that one or okay. That's technically not a an in the booth story. But yeah, I mean, I've grown up nerd and geek my whole life, and I used to go to conventions and dress up, and mostly they were Star Trek and Doctor Who and various sci-fi and gaming and comic book conventions. But since I started doing this, and I'm on the other side of the table, I haven't been dressing up quite as much. I'm trying to stay professional or whatever. I don't know what it is, but I was working on a game called .hack GU, and I was playing a character named Haseo, and they showed me, the character design for him, and he had this badass, leather outfit stuff, and I'd always thought it was really cool. And one day we were working on the game, and we were taking a break, and I went outside, and the producers were sitting, talking, and he said, so do you ever cosplay at conventions, any of the characters that you play? And I'm like, dude, no. And I'm like, and I said, well, let me qualify that. It's not that I don't think that it's cool. I mean, but it's just that I know what would happen, and here's what it would be. I would, put together the baddest ass costume that I could come up with, and I'd show up at the convention, and there would be like 6 dudes and like 4 girls in the same costume but better than me, and I'm ostensibly supposed to be that character, and I would just feel shamed, by everybody, all the fans who made better costumes than me, and I just don't want that to happen. And he goes, oh, okay, and I said, but that said, the Haseo's outfit is awesome, and if I could get away with wearing that in real life, like to work every day, I would totally do it. And he goes, just nodded, and he said, okay. And we came back the next day to work, and he said, I talked to the lead designer on the game at Bandai, and they said that if you would dress as Haseo to whatever the big Anime Expo in Los Angeles in 4 months or whatever, we will spend money and create you the awesomest Haseo outfit ever. And I was like, oh wow, in my head I'm like, what do I do now? You gotta tell them no. You can't do this, you gotta say no. But I'm like, no, I kinda gotta put my money where my mouth is. And they said they'd make me an awesome outfit. What am I gonna do, And so I'm like, no, I said I would, I gotta do this. So I said, okay, I'll do it. But it better be good. They said, no, the designer wants to do it, it'll be great. I'm like, okay, awesome. So sure enough, Anime Expo comes around, and they make me this awesome Haseo outfit. I'm like, okay, I get to do this. It's gonna be great. I worked out and everything too. I was like, it's like this midriff thing. It's like Psy. It's like you guys always see Psy's belly button. Haseo has sort of the same thing. And I'm like, so I was working out and I'm getting ready for it. I'm like, I'm gonna be Haseo. And I put on the outfit, and I go to Anime Expo, and there are 6 dudes and 4 chicks, all wearing the same Haseo outfit, only like 10 times better. And I had to ride out the whole convention like that. They would come up and they'd be like, can I get your autograph? And I'm like, yes, better Haseo. You're the real Haseo. I had to decide because everybody, so I haven't done it since, but that was my one sort of cosplay exciting story. Any more questions?
I have another Prince of Persia question.
Please, I love the Prince of Persia questions.
Now that I lost my mind back, Sands of Time was actually like 6 or 7 years ago, which I'm presuming was sort of early in your career. Yeah. How did you land that role, and what did it mean for you to get like that sort of main character role?
It was very early in my career. When they did Sands of Time, yeah, it was about, at this point it must be like 6 years ago. And it was very early in my, and it may have been one of the first games I did, because I had done a couple of anime characters, but had not done a character like that. At that point, I played Prince of Persia like on my Apple IIe when it was like an 8-bit game, and so I was familiar with that. But the creator, Jordan Mechner, he was trying to reimagine it in this new world of video games and really update it. And because we didn't know what it was going to become, you know, there was sort of no pressure. I mean, I wasn't like, oh, I gotta get this. You know, oftentimes, if I go into an audition and it's, because I'm a nerd, you know, I mean, oftentimes I'll know the source material or whatever, and, you know, on those ones that I really want, I usually mess up because I'm too nervous. But because this hadn't become the Prince of Persia that it is right now, I didn't know. It was just another audition. And I don't know what it was necessarily that won me the role over anybody else who auditioned for it. It was interesting because I went in and I said, well, do you want to do it, or are we trying to do any sort of Persian accent or anything? They're like, no, they don't want a Persian accent. I'm like, Prince of Persia, right? They're like, yeah, but they don't, you know, they maybe want something, you know, regal about it, but, you know, he's sort of a rogue, and he's, you know, like, okay. And so I did what I felt that meant. And for whatever reason, Jordan liked that. The exciting thing about working on that was that he created it, he was also the voice director on it, and the writer, and so rarely do we get that. Usually the writer is a separate person from the creator, who is a separate person from the voice director. But he, you know, had the whole vision in his head, and rarely do I get an opportunity to work like that on a game or anything for that matter. And so it was really exciting to do that. And as a result, I think, you know, we got a good game. It was one of those games that, you know, the design was great, and the writing was great, and the directing was great, and the gameplay was fun. You know, it had a great look to it. And it was one of those games where everything came together, which you always hope for. But you never know. When we're recording the voice for a game, you don't know what the game's going to be like. You hope that it's going to be good. But none of us could have expected that it was going to be that good. And obviously I'm biased, but I've gone back to, I mean, it's one of the only games where I've gone back to like play it all the way through again, just because it's fun. And one of my big tragedies of me getting this PS3, I thought that it was going to be backwards compatible to all the PS2 games. And I hear that the very first model was, but not the one that I bought. And it's sad because I want to go back and play it again, but I've shelved my PS2 and it took up too much space. And but yeah, it's exciting, and they've tried to, you know, bring back that feel of the first game in subsequent games. And sometimes it works a little more than others. And I hope that these new games do it, because we did a separate game for PS3, Xbox 360, than we did for PSP, than we did for Wii. So they're all totally different games. And I hope that they're all good. This is certainly fun to do. The writer for Forgotten Sands also wrote Naruto Broken Bond video game. And she's a huge nerd. She was totally happy to get on the Prince of Persia franchise. So she was really excited, and I was really excited. So hopefully that love will shine through in the game. Yes?